All right. Here we go. Welcome everyone to another week of Blueprint for Peak Performance. Ask me anything. I'm Brandy Smith. I'm the founder of Perfect 10 Physical Therapy and Performance Training and Perfect 10 PT Academy, online courses for coaches, parents, and athletes. I'm super excited to have all of you guys here. For those of you that don't know me, I am a physical therapist. I'm a former two-time collegiate national champion gymnast. And I now am a physical therapist and performance coach. I work with athletes from recreational all the way up to Olympic level athletes, world team and national team athletes, and everything in between. And I even have a preschool program because we love developmental stuff and the foundations for everything. I'm super excited because one of the things that I started dabbling in is the premise of everything that I see as both as a physical therapist and a performance coach, and then looking back at myself as an athlete, knowing what I know about biomechanics and movement and all these other things, the premise of all struggle, right? Number one, being an athlete is I want to be the best at my sport. Number one. Number two, I don't want to be injured. Or you can vice versa that. Like it can be either way. But I think that's probably, to be honest, most motivation of all athletes. And so I want to be the best I can be, and I don't want to be injured. And when I look back and knowing what I know and what I do with everyone, I began to realize like it's not what you're doing, it's how you're doing it, right? And so um, the premise of all lack of power, lack of strength, lack of speed, lack of whatever is typically how I'm doing it and then building strength in there. But if I have bad mechanics and bad movement patterns, I'm going to bleed out power. I'm going to lose power. And so I can have all the strength in the world, but if I'm losing it because I got bad movement, then I'm in trouble. And if I'm creating bad movement patterns while I'm doing it, so how I'm doing it, then I'm going to take up those stresses typically somewhere I don't want, like a growth plate if I'm growing, or a tendon if I'm older, or on our joint surfaces, right? And so then I have injury, I have pain, and that takes me out of my sport. And so the reason I say this is because I began to try to, as a physical therapist, figure out how, like the really bottom line of what we do when we first start working with athletes in an injury world. My favorite place to work is performance now, but I work injury still all the time. And you know, I started thinking, I was like, how do we, and this is where sometimes this field used to lack, is how do we get athletes to move better? We teach them all these little isometrics and these little movement stuff, and we do these things in the clinic, but then they have to transfer that new movement pattern that we created that's better for them to heavy loads while they're doing their sport, which running is 5 times your body weight, a standing back handspring is 5 times your body weight, standing back 5 to 10 times your body weight. Elite gymnasts tumble 22 times their body weight. So a round up back handspring back tuck is 10 to 14 times your body weight. So I'm like, how do I get them to move better at these high loads while flipping through the air? There's a lot of input happening, right? We're spinning, we're flipping, we're moving forward or backwards in the direction while flipping and spinning. And so there's a lot of input happening into the brain, a lot happening at the same time. And one of the things that I learned early on is that there's something called tension to task. Anthony Lowe has come in. He's one of my mentors. But if you guys stand up, you don't have to think about standing up. You don't fall over, right? You don't let gravity win. So the body will adapt to the task at hand. But the question is the task appropriate? And is the task promoting proper movement? Because that's going to be the foundation of how well you transfer the loads and how well you do your sport. So I began to dabble with resistance. How can I resist athletes to give them a task so that they can do it with better movement? And if I resist them too much, depending on the task and the level of the athlete, then they move poorly. And if I don't resist them enough, they move poorly. There's this sweet spot. And so I began playing with TheraBands and all this other stuff. And TheraBands break, TheraBands rub. They catch in the back of your hair when you kick your head out on a back handspring or you do stuff, and they rip your hair out. I had one kid, literally, she wore a swim cap for a while because she had ripped out a hunk of hair. doing something with some TheraBands. I was like, oh dear Lord. And they break. And if we have a lot of athletes in the gym using TheraBands and you guys are in a gym, you have probably gone through a lot of TheraBands and they cycle through every 3 months, sometimes 6 if you're lucky. But that band is like, it's like a ticking time bomb, and everybody's like, who's going to be in the way when it like clicks back? So it was a few years back that I found 2/8 bands. And I gave you that lead up because I'm super excited to have our guest today. So we are going to talk about the use of resistance bands to move better, to improve our movement patterns so we can improve our sport and improve our performance and decrease our injury risk, right? I can't say it's injury prevention because stuff happens, right? But it definitely decreases your injury risk. We know that if you have better movement patterns, solid biomechanics, and things are all more balanced, and you're moving throughout an entire kinetic chain of your body instead of moving at one point, right? Which is usually where we have a problem. So I'm super excited to have Coach Stokes here. I'm gonna let him do a full introduction because he has a really cool story as well, and had some similar experiences, I think, with bands, which led him to, create the 2/8 bands. But the 2/8 bands have now become one of my favorite ways to resist because the band itself, um, it's just comfortable. And there's all these loops. You can use them in different ways. You can tie them together. I do some crazy stuff with it. Coach Stokes has seen me. But you can do gymnastics because that was the other thing is like, I need to change how they're moving in space. And the other thing is I wanted resistance because we know that closed chain exercises where you have connection to the floor, connection to something, right? That you actually get better neural input to the brain and you improve strength training, your mechanics get better, your injury risk declines. Like there's a bunch of stuff about closed kinetic chain exercise and how well it is. Well, gymnastics is mostly open chain. Like a split leap, there's nothing touching the ground. A back handspring, if I'm in the air and I got my hands there, there's a part of the time where I've got one part down, but I'm not touching with the other. And so I found that if I can put the bands and give resistance all the way through the hands, all the way through the toes, you can resist the entire kinetic chain and kind of, in some ways, fake or create a closed kinetic chain movement with an open kinetic chain movement, right? So they're flipping in the air and they don't have anything to push into, but I can make it a little more closed by giving some resistance through the band. So I've got a lot of different ways I use it, but I'm so excited to have Coach Stoke here. We're going to do Move Better, Perform Your Best, resistance bands training for gymnasts of all ages and athletes. I'm going to welcome in Coach Steve Stokes, who is the inventor and founder of 2/8 Bands, which I'm sitting here talking about. And we've got a bunch of gyms now that are having them. They've got, gosh, like 40 bands or more. They've got sets to go for at least 10 athletes. So that's 40 bands. Yep. So that's 40. And they love it. And they are blown away. When I start working with the bands at a camp, I did it this summer actually. And I had a coach who was kind of, what was the word? Skeptical across the way. And he's like, what are you doing wrapping these kids up? And then he watched their movements change and their shaping change. He watched some athletes that he had been butting heads and could not get open shoulders, could not get open hips. And all of a sudden they had this beautiful open line. And all of a sudden they had these bigger leaps. And he was like, what did you just do? So we spent another 30 minutes after the session was done just talking about the bands. He goes, this is brilliant. Like, he was like, they're so easy. Like, I was like, yeah, once you teach them, there's a little bit of lead up teaching, but once you teach them how to do it, they love it. So, no, without further ado, Coach Stokes, come on in and introduce yourself a little bit more and your story with athletics and bands. And then we're going to get into some really cool ways to use the bands.
Well, that lead up there, I'm logged in twice because I've been having camera issues. So if this camera just cuts out, give me like 3 seconds, the second camera will pop on and we'll
No
keep
worries.
rocking and rolling. But hello everyone, I'm Coach Stokes. I did indeed design and invent the 2/8 band. I'll explain why we call it the 2/8 band. There's actually several reasons, but the functional ones are the ones that matter the most. And just listening to that lead in, I could go so many different directions with this, but I'm actually going to go a little bit outside of the box here. Because you had light bulbs flying off in my head as well too, and I do this every single day. But always it's a pleasure to talk to you because it always fires off some new neurons for me. So, can a fish swim well? Right? Is a fish aware that it's in the water, or is a fish just being a fish when it's in the water? The reason I asked this question, and I really want you to think about it. Now, think of a fish outside of water. What does it do immediately? It starts to flounder, it starts to go crazy because it's been taken out of its natural known environment forever. Now think of the human being as being a fish inside of gravity. Because gravity is with us pretty much all of the time, except when we decide to go against it, we do not acknowledge its presence. So it's kind of like blinking. It's kind of like your heartbeat. It's just something that always is. So your subconscious mind always calculates how to live with it. Now, when gravity gets adjusted, stand in the middle of an earthquake, stuff starts to shake, fall off of something, and gravity is manipulated in a different way, then your body starts to react immediately different because something is off. And as you were talking about how the athlete responds to being connected to the ground as opposed to force without connection, we saw this a lot from fighters, right? If I go punch a heavy punching bag, I'm getting physical. If I punch a face, a person, right? Any type of contact, that contact is giving me the feedback, which shoots through my joints, which sends vibrations through me. As you're saying, running, that contact is 5 times the body weight. Well, you know that also each step in a run is exerting thousands of pounds of pressure to the ground. So all of this vibrational feedback that we get when you go in the water, you take away a lot of it. Like this is floating and the water's all around you. So the water eliminates gravity. This is why people find so much peace inside of water. And I was trying to make that analogy between a fish and the human experience. But part of how I designed the bands was thinking about being like water. The greatest physical trainer, I think, of our time was Bruce Lee. And his main motto was be like water. It's about flow and going with what's happening around you. And that was something that's always been prevalent with me throughout my entire professional athletic career. I used to play American football and the CFL in Canada. And right now it's the middle of the night for me and it's cold because I am in Scandinavia. No, I'm not in Scandinavia. I am in Northern Europe. Finland's not in Scandinavia. I always get that wrong. I'm next to Scandinavia, but it's cold regardless. This is where Santa Claus is from. So if you see me throw a beanie on at some point here, I'm on my balcony right now because it's the only place in my home where I can get some peace and quiet at this time of day. So um, coming here and using my sport to travel all around the world is all about contact and being physical. But every time we got hurt, we took the contact away. Every time there was an injury or something was wrong, we had to strip away the contact. And when I blew my knee out at the height of my powers and my athletic prime, what did I do? I went right back into the pool because the pool took gravity away and allowed me to experience range of motion with some form of resistance that was not normalized by my brain, like gravity is. And then it started going to resistance bands. And as many pain points as Coach Smith articulated here, I could go on for many more about stories of how resistance bands have failed in the water. You know, you take a TheraBand and that slippery latex, when you start to sweat, trying to hold on to that, how it starts to react differently based on temperature. Having things like handles and clips, Velcro, other apparatuses so that it could be wearable. Because one of the mottos for our company, as we evolved from Be Like Water, was keep the athlete in their element. So as you heard Coach Smith continually talk about doing gymnastics, right? Most people use a resistance band in a rehab facility, somewhere off-site, somewhere when they're working with someone else in a closed environment that doesn't. I never liked the term functional training. I was like, I don't function. I play on a football field, so why am I in a weight room doing functional training? That doesn't really compute to me. But if I'm on the football field with the resistance doing a football move, then that's real functional training. So I would call that mimicking or something that was, uh, I'm not thinking of a better synonym right now, but we're trying to mimic some of our movement patterns, but we're not actually doing our sport, our craft. So the fact to hear her say the words, we're doing gymnastics, that is what we set out to do. And we said, be like water, because water flows and adapts to whatever environment it is in. So we wanted to create a product that would flow and adapt to any environment that it is in. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that. I was a professional athlete since 2005, all the way up until about 2017. In the middle of all that, I always would train and work, especially with the youth. And the motto quickly became just move better. If you're training to be an Olympian and you're going to be on stage going for a gold medal the next day, you can still try to move better the next day to get the gold. Or if you've been in a traumatic car accident and you are struggling just to find out what normal is, the goal is to just move better the next day. So that's what we pride ourselves on meeting people and adapting to where they are at, and then helping them just move better wherever they are the next day, because that is a never ending goal. As much as we want to be number one or be the best or accomplish some task that somebody set out there for points or a score or whatever it might be, I just want you to move better. And however I can help you do that, that's what I have prided myself on doing and what we have built. And doing that by tackling all of those pain points Coach Smith was talking about and many more, so that you could stay in your element and move better with your athletes at all.
And one piece to this is that I think there was, and this is something that I run into a lot when people see what I'm doing with the bands, is there's this stigma that bands are really only for injury. And that is something that I think 2/8 bands has helped really break in this process, because like you were just saying about moving better, we're a living, breathing organism. And so what I am today is not what I am tomorrow, and it's not what I was yesterday. Sometimes something's stiffer, something's looser, something's et cetera, because there's a whole nervous system involved in cellular change every single day. And then you put on that a growing athlete, so they're changing, their center of mass is changing, their proprioception, there's all kinds of things changing. Um, and I think people have this stigma that, you just use bands for injury. But what I have found is that the injury, and I've said this many times before, is that the injury was a ticking time bomb most of the time. Most injuries, there's, what is it, now 60%? 60% of injuries in America in our youth are overuse injuries, which to me says 60% of our injuries are preventable, because that means you had bad mechanics for a long time. That's what overuse means. It means you did not move better for a long time. and and so that being said, everything can get better with resistance just by looking at your movement patterns. And I think one thing I'd like to challenge coaches to think about is, we think about basics, like, okay, it's basics day. We're doing basics on this event, and every sport has a basic of some sort. Gymnastics has specific basics depending on their levels, but behind the basics is the movement literacy that you and I've talked about, and the movement menu, the ability to actually move, the basic movement patterns that lead to the skill specific basics that you're doing for your sport. And so the part that I'd like to challenge coaches to think about is, are my athletes moving optimally going into our basics? And then are they carrying over that optimal movement into their basics? And that was where I found that there was a big gap, and there still is in a lot of the world of physical therapy versus coaching, is they can clean out in the clinic, like you said, those movement basics, the movement literacy, but then there's a gap between that movement literacy and how to move better like that in the new way that we want them to move in their sport. And that's where the bands really cover the gap for me. and to improve that. So come on in, Coach Josiah. I triggered something.
Yeah. Well, as you were saying, there's that gap for when I this is systematically built into society. The actual business became a business because I entered this theory into a Google Innovator project. Flew out to Denmark for a weekend as I was awarded a grant to do so for this project. But it wasn't about creating the product, it was about addressing the social issue. And I went through schools and I interviewed classrooms, just quick survey. I would go into classrooms and I would ask students to raise their hand if they enjoyed running. Running's my main focus. And all the way up, like clockwork, across every campus I was on to the third grade, 98%. I love to run. And then in the fourth grade, it would flip almost completely opposite. You may have five students who say, yes, I love to run. And what I identified was there's a social aspect of this and a systematic issue with this that we've all silently agreed upon. One, if I don't move with the proper mechanics, my body knows it's not optimal. And while I might not have overworked the improper mechanic to the point of an injury through self-preservation, because that's what the body's always trying to do, I will tell myself I do not like to do this thing. That should be natural and free flowing, right? Running should be something we can all enjoy. But for many people, because they don't do it the right way, they start to turn a negative energy towards it because their body is simply trying to save themselves. And if you look funny or you look weird doing it, it doesn't feel right or look right. Socially, you get made fun of. You're behind, you're seeing other people excel, and no one knows why. Because what we've all agreed upon in silence is let's do the activity. I'm going to go to PE class. Well, here's the game we're playing, and here are the rules. I'm going to go to my gymnastics session. Let's go through my basics. Here's how I go through the basics. But there's a foundational layer where movement literacy is born before any of that should ever happen that is unrealistic to ask coaches to adhere to at all times. So we end up in this vicious cycle of let's be completely negligent to this. Let's just shuffle kids along to see what they're naturally good at. And then when they do hurt themselves, then we'll try to fix the damage and get that part to operate functionally and properly, then see if they can come back. But what have they lost in the meantime? And that is probably my, I would say it's like my life's calling, is to change that within culture. And I use the phrase movement literacy really intentionally because it's just like reading and writing. Now, if I have to learn to read, we've agreed upon it that you have to get an education. If you don't, your parents will be in trouble by law if they're not educating you in some kind of way. And the fundamental parts of education are literature and arithmetic. If you're struggling, we'll stick with literature for literacy. If we're struggling to, first off, when we get in there, we're going to sing the ABCs because we know fundamentally you have to learn letters before you learn words. And before you learn words, before you do sentences, you got to learn words. And then you can do the sentence, then the paragraph. We compound, but we understand you must start from scratch. We don't go in and say, well, they'll figure it out. Let's just all hand them a book and see who gets it. And then we'll go from reverse there. But this is literally what we do with movement. We don't have those fundamental patterns. So now imagine not only did someone just hand you a book and expect you to learn how to read just because you're watching other people read, and they tell you this is what reading is, then you see it with dyslexia, or you're reading backwards, you stutter a little bit. You don't want to read in front of the class. You don't want to do that in public. So you start to shield yourself again to protect yourself. And then it becomes something that is legitimately painful. Why would I want to do this when it hurts my brain, when it doesn't feel right? Because I'm doing something wrong, I'm doing something incorrect. And we literally see human movement from our backs for like the first 8 months of our life. where we're just laying down, where most human activity doesn't happen, but we're witnessing things from a lens that is incorrect as to what is actually happening. And then we start to imitate movement instead of actually move in the correct way. So this is, I probably should finish. I was writing a book on this. AI interrupted all of that. And I'm going to show you something too that we just did with Coach Welly with AI too that I want to do with you as well, where it basically put your knowledge base into an AI section of our mobile app and allow people to have these type of conversations with you when you're not even there, with your knowledge and what you've gathered. But don't let me run into an AI tangent because I can do that as well. But
Before you go into the AI, I want to tell you though, this whole movement literacy in the beginning of movement, that's why I created Born to Move, our preschool curriculum. Because I feel very passionately that we have children that don't know how to move and they're not getting the right feedback from the get-go. So we have an entire program now, starting at 3 months to 5 years that we're rolling out. I know you don't know about, you probably haven't seen it. Maybe you've seen it on my
oh,
Instagram.
I do.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Instagram.
I've reposted and I share. And the most beautiful part about that is, and we'll go back to water. They have baby swimming classes, don't they?
Yeah.
Like, because it's a
My
natural
daughter
thing
was
and you're
there.
supposed to do it, right?
Yeah.
But how many baby walking and running classes do they have? Or how many tumbling, gymnastics, parkour, body control classes do they have? There's a few that pop up here and there, but I love absolutely what you're doing because we don't start teaching a child language when they get to school.
Yeah.
We're talking to them when they're still in the belly. And when they come out, we're still sharing vocabulary with them in a way that we don't understand how they comprehend, but we guide them there. And as they start to mimic it, we correct them
Mhm.
because we have an understanding. But every adult I talk to, when I ask them a question, the simple question I asked you last time is which way do you swing your arms when you run? And 99.9% of adults I ask get that incorrect. So how the heck are they going to correct their children?
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. So until we change, first off, until the alarm bell is rung loud enough that this is a crisis that we find ourselves in. You said 60% of injuries
Yeah.
are because of overuse.
Yeah.
I'll give you one that I have not scientifically or statistically proven, but I have yet to come across anyone who can answer this question for me in a different way. Can you name an injury that is not an acute blunt force trauma that happens to a limb when it is not close to the core?
That happens when it's to a limb, that when it's not close to the core. What do you mean?
Mhm.
Like
So,
when it's far away or
yeah, no one springs their elbow in this position.
oh,
No
right.
one twists the wrist up here, right? No one springs their ankle when they're here in the fetal position, right? And we're born that way because we have weak core strength and we're protecting our vital organs. And it's hard to extend limbs because we haven't yet got used to gravity.
Right.
But then we start to understand that we live in a world where gravity is constant and we start to build up ways to go against gravity. But when we reach out and we get away from our safe place, which is the core, then we make ourselves vulnerable to, I always say the core is like a tree trunk. Your legs are the roots, your arms are the branches. If you have a strong core, the likelihood of your roots breaking or it's injury risk. Um,
Decline.
we're I don't want to say injury prevention, but you're minimizing the risk when you have a stronger core.
Yeah.
I can have stronger, longer branches. I can do more powerful, extended movements. But when the core is not where it is meant to be, or it's not leading the way when it comes to each movement pattern, then this is where injury happens, in my opinion, without blunt force trauma, nearly every single time.
I mean, over my so secret, I just celebrated this last year 20 years in my profession, which I kind of like, I'm only 26. How is this possible? But but over my 20 years, I've said this over and over. There's not one person that comes to me doesn't get core work. It's always involved. It's a foundation. It's like you wouldn't build a house without cement and rebar. If I build the house on gravel, what's going to happen to my walls whenever there's any kind of external forces, right? With the weather, they're going to start to crumble. Something's going to break. Something's not going to be efficient and then it's going to break. Or maybe it just breaks because it's really acute or whatever. But like, in short, that core, I 100% agree. The core, which is why the bands are so great because it just naturally activates the core. So I know we could go on forever, you and I both on this. Um, and I was going to tell you that, part of this movement literacy, building it with the infants up that I've been working with is that we have a specific sequence of neural development. The brain actually develops from the reptilian brain to the midbrain to the upper, to the actual cortex, our thinking brain, and it develops through movement. The first 4 years of life, all of the input is really from sensory motor, senses and movement. That's it. That's how you learn. This is foundational to any other learning because you learn attention to task through movement. If you don't have attention to get task, that's the gateway to learning anything. If I can't focus on something, I'm not going to learn math, I'm not going to learn reading, I'm not going to be able to do all these other things. And so that being said, that when you follow it down, the basis for any learning is movement. The basis for the whole nervous system comes from movement. And that's
I
where
love that.
you're right, 100% I agree, is that movement literacy needs to be a priority, needs to be well educated to parents from the get-go when infants come out. And when they enter the school system where we have grants and funding from the state and the government, the country, whatever, wherever they are in the world, there needs to be emphasis on movement as a class, movement integrated in their class. There's a bunch of research on movement, resisted movements. Um, you know, uh, resisted, whether it's bands or weights, right? But like resisted movements, improving ability to focus, ability to have memory, ability to attention to task, impulse control, like all these things that are necessary for learning in like to take more than one step instructions. It's based that neurologically is based from movement. And so we've cut movement, at least in the US, practically out of the school system, and they wonder why they have behavioral issues and they can't focus in class, and then no one's remembering anything. And in the state of Texas, they're tested with these standardized tests, and all the teachers' jobs are connected to these standardized tests, and they're wondering why everybody's getting C's or below. And it's like, well, you're not moving them, you're sitting them.
The
So
the
that's
other
sorry,
part
I'll
of
get
that.
off the soapbox, but that's
Oh no, I've been in the educational sector for the past 13 years until I just the last 2 months stepped away finally to focus 100% on getting people to move better. But I was at the forefront of it, and I'm traveling the world speaking about it over and over again. You know, as you said, when we have an issue with reading and you need support, we get you a tutor. But I see somebody in a PE class, which and PE teachers often get angry with me because they think I'm going after them for not teaching these things. But I'm like, again, you're supposed to teach the PE lesson, and you get the largest group of students at one time, biggest ratio deficiency, plus they've been caged. So you have pent up energy that you're supposed to focus, and you're the only one focused on your task. Wow, I'm in the history class, we got to have language. I'm in the chemistry class, we got to have language. I'm in the literacy class, we got to have language. And it's a collective agreement of how we're going to get this kid to the next level. But for PE, it's just like, hey, go there, burn off some energy. Go to recess and PE. And but what do kids look forward to the most in the day? Most of them during those subjects until they get to a point where movement becomes detrimental. But yeah, I'll get off the soapbox as well. We gotta show some folks some solutions, not just
oh,
doom and
so much
gloom,
some
right?
solutions. Let's get into the solution. Yeah.
All right. Well, in the development of the 2/8 band, and I told you I had explained this is one of them, and we talk about resistance. The phrase, I actually think it's a disservice to call these resistance bands. Now, resistance band technology, if you will, is undeniable. That's why they use it for you when you're at your worst to help you bring you back to your best. But what it is literally doing is it's providing tension because the tension is doing something to the brain to tell my body to work and activate differently. It's bringing tension brings attention. I love that, right? So tension brings attention. So when I apply the right type of tension, I can recover or I can progress much faster. So to just call this a resistance band, I would call it more of a tension band, the lighter weight movement band that we have, because it's not here to give you big time resistance. It's here to actually guide your movement and to provide that tension for each movement that you do. So you have neurological recall from the band almost as an assistant coach for every movement that you do. So it really just comes down to how you put the band on. And the reason we are called 2-8 bands is because at the end of each band, there is this anchor that is double reinforced, what opens up into a figure eight loop. If anyone's ever had a figure eight resistance band, and every band has two of them. So 2-8 bands. See what I did there? That's the simple of it. Um, as we put multiple loops in here, so you can get multiple ranges of motion, different size loops, so they can be worn or adjusted or adapted to the athlete, no matter what they're doing with them. It really just comes down to your imagination and your expertise. So if you understand what the movement pattern is supposed to be, and then you can use this to manipulate it around your athlete so it reinforces the tension at the correct points, you can shut up. And what I mean is, as a coach, if I teach you how to do a specific skill and then I provide positive resistance, I provide a reinforcing source of tension to that particular movement. When you are no longer with me, because we're not going to retain most of what I said, anyways, when you're no longer with me, you're no longer around me, but you can pull out one of these, you can put it on the way I showed you, and then your brain will have a neurological recall of the pattern of tension that you were going after before. And then you will start to do quality reps on your own. And this is a simple equation I give to every coach I talk to. And this is why I say, hey, gyms, you might get 40 of these, but these are not for you. These are for you to educate and give to the athletes. That's why there's a name tag in the center of each one. So they can literally write their name in there and take ownership of their movement. But how long is your athlete with you? The most extreme sport, you may be with the coach for 3 hours in a day. It still leaves 21 other hours. Okay, some of that's for sleeping and eating and whatever else you got to do, right? But you only get three. You will always be in the minority of the time of their life with them. So if you can send something like this with them so they can access that positive tension, especially the more dedicated athletes who you know do things when they're not with you, who you know travel or train on their own or have to get into a remote situation like we're in a pandemic, any of these things, if you can give them this companion, you give them access to quality movement patterns at all times. That is what we needed to create because it's not going to happen in curriculum in schools. That's what I realized at the Google Innovator Project. Like, I'm not going to be able to flip history classes into these huge jungle gyms of movement, which we would love to. But if we can start to give them something like we give them a pencil and a paper and a book, give them something else that actually helps them with movement throughout their day whenever they want to call on it or access it. We don't limit them from reading when they want to read or when they want to write, right? We give them extra tools and resources to do it on their own time, and they're on their own most of the time. So this is meant to be in the athlete's bag at all times.
I love that. I think you were gonna show us. Can you show us how to use the van? Some like whether we do some demos, or I know you also have the app that you're maybe wanna show us the
Can
app.
I
Of it. What do
can I
we?
do a screen share on here?
Yeah, I got you open. I just opened it for you.
Okay. So first I'll show you why the loops are different really quickly, just so you guys understand. And I'm not I am not a gymnast. I was a cheerleader for a little while, so I got a pretty good solid back tuck and what was it called? The my toe touch. My toe touch was awesome. It was all force and momentum, but not flexibility. But I could make it look good. Um, I'm not going to teach you guys gymnastics, and I never pretend to be a professional in something that I'm not. But what I am going to show you is how the band functions. And what I challenge you to do is see is how you take the functionality and make it work for you. When people order the product, there's no instruction manual. There is the app that we try to push you to, and the conversations like these that we try to push you to, so that we can actually help people the way they need to be helped instead of trying to force our methodology or our way upon someone. Okay. So if I come back to my little anchor loop here, you see I just slid that in my hand quickly. Another reason we are called 2-8 bands because you're supposed to be able to get in any one of our 28 different modes in 2 to 8 seconds. If it takes longer than that, you're probably wasting that valuable coaching time, which we've already established is not that much. So we want you to be able to get in and out of your drill, right? Being able to go hands free that quick without having to strap or Velcro or slap anything else on there, and for it to just be there and to be secure. And because this figure eight loop opens up, if I needed high tension in a short range, I could do something there, or I can go end to end and I can get long range. This will easily go, and we have a few 7-footers on the roster who can go from foot. Yeah, this guy's in a program with Shaquille O'Neal. It's amazing. But he can still get the full range of motion. This is about a meter long when it's stretched out without any tension. But when I go full tension, let me go portrait mode here. When I go full tension, I can stretch this all the way out and I can get all kind of range of motion. And I just slap that on my foot the same way I slapped it on my hands in less than 2 to 8 seconds. And because the fabric is soft and it hugs, you can use it barefoot. You can use it on mats, on any surface. You can put it inside of a shoe or outside of a shoe. It's all the same. But the beauty of this too is the fact that because it opens up, I can essentially turn this into a glove and then it wraps on and it gives them more tension points in the parts of the body that are furthest away from the core. And when we can feel the tension points as I am extending and getting full extension on the parts that are furthest away from my core, the more I have to be acute and aware of where I'm actually pushing from and engaging my core in the process of doing so. The same way it did that on my hand, I can slide that around my foot or my shoe and it'll hug on there like a sock when I open that part up there as well, which makes it just feel incredibly, incredibly secure whenever you put it on. And these are tight enough to squeeze onto some of the smallest athletes. Not sure about the 6-month-old, but when they're walking, running, and jumping at that
Yeah,
point,
the
they can be
youngest, the
running.
youngest I've used 5 or 6 years old. Like 5 is the youngest I've done the resistance bands on. Yeah.
And it all comes down to how you manipulate the band, because that's why there's different loops on here. So these ones on the ends, you'll see those little lines on there to reinforce the fact that, remember, it is double reinforced. There's two, that's why there's two lines there. Then I come here into the next loop. It is a 2-star loop. This is simply what we call the adjustment loop. It is only here for the fact that you can adjust if you need something a little bit tighter around a smaller athlete, or if you want to adjust your range of motion. Then we come to the largest loop, the 3-star loop, and these are basically for we say these thighs and the tris, right? So I can easily slap that around my thigh and I can attach the other side. It's on both thighs, or it fits equally around the bicep area. This might be a new mode we're working on here. A little side plank there, right? But so this is meant again to attach to the limbs, because once we pull the tension to the limbs away from the core, we get core activation, we get core strength, we get the proper focal point for tension. So these are what we call the wearable loops, because they're meant to fit over the larger parts of the limbs away from the core. There are ways to attach it to the core as well when you have multiple bands, as Coach Smith does all the time, right? When you start to put more than one band together, this anchor, we call this one the anchor loop, these end loops, because it anchors to your feet and your um, hands the way I showed you, right? But if I have, why is this not moving? If I have a secure fixture, and if you ever tied like a TheraBand to something that's secure and then used it and try to untie it, you might as well cut it off, right? But because I have that loop there. I just slide one loop through the other, and then it's locked in with a slip knot. These become handles on the other end if I want, or something I can wear on any part of my limb. And I have multiple loops so I can change the distance from where I am on the anchor point, and then I can easily slide that off, right? But I can anchor the same way I anchored this one band to another band, as Coach Smith always does, to increase the length of the bands and manipulate it in different ways. Boom. So where I can really get some big time extension or different movement patterns that I might not necessarily get just from one band. Oh, the camera's wigging out here. There we go. It's back. Okay. So that is the basis of the design. The last part I would mention is here I said the name tag was. The center is reinforced and it does not move. This is also something for children that we designed. Now, one of the biggest pain points, which Coach Smith didn't mention before, was when people don't use bands properly, or if the band fails and it snaps and it breaks, what happens to the person on the other end of that? Sometimes it is life threatening. Quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts literally just had an orbital fracture because the band failed on him. I'm like, you guys are an NFL establishment and you're still using cheap stuff. Or he just did something with a really thick rubber band and didn't do it properly and it slipped and you're in the hospital. So what we did, soft fabric, one, which makes it feathery and lighter when you have it fully stretched out. But because the center part does not flex, it does not move, when this is stretched out, it doesn't snap fully across. If one end gives up, it comes to the center, to the dead part, so it almost deflates, which eliminates a lot of the slap back. Should there be negligent? Now, none of these have torn in the 4 years that we've been telling them. So I'm not going to say should it tear or break or anything like that, because that was priority number one. These can withstand thousands of pounds of pressure, and they are machine tested to do so. So you
Yeah,
would have to have a
he
really
has
defective.
you have video of you pulling a truck with the red bands.
Yes,
I
Coach. I was with Coach Welly, and he did not have any jumper cables, any tools for a car whatsoever. All we had were the bands in the car. So we literally just tied it up and drove for about 5 miles, tow hitch, and handled it no problem. I hang upside down off of these all the time, totally reliable, and that's how they have to be because we are working with children and we take that serious. So, is there something else specific that you would want me to show, or do you want me to screen share the app to show people how they can get to the resources of what we want to do?
For sure, we want to give them the resources because I think the resources are really, really important because then they can kind of use them themselves. And then maybe if you
Okay.
can, I mean, we're only got like 10. I mean, if people are okay with staying a little bit later, we could do a little bit over. So 10 to 20 minutes left. And also we can open up. So Carla, Patricia, Kelly, any of you guys who have some questions or like, so he'll open up the app and kind of show some stuff. And then if you guys have some specific things on like questions on how to use the bands, we could do that. I definitely would like you to throw up at least one or two examples, and then I could always throw up one or two examples on how I wrap the band crazy and use it with gymnastics, the actual sport. We can do, I have lots of exercises, but I also have actual just gymnastics, straight up gymnastics. So this is the
Yeah.
app.
Yeah. So it is a web-based app. It'll ask you to download it. You can find it on our website as well. So if you're on our website, which is 28.shop, and you just scroll down, you'll see this button that says download the app. It's not in any app store. It's not on Apple or Google. It's a web-based app, which means it'll operate just like an app on your mobile device, no matter what type of mobile device you have, and even if you have a BlackBerry or a Windows phone. But when you are here on the web-based version, when you actually come to a website or a computer like I'm on now or a tablet, you can see it in web-based form as well. On your phone, you'll just simply see these icons on the bottom and it'll interact just as a normal app would, and it'll download to your home screen and everything as well. Okay. So when I'm here, these are the 28 modes I was telling you guys about. You can jump in here and every single mode that we have. Now we update this. It's the best 28 modes, and they have to follow the rules. You have to be able to get in within 2 to 8 seconds, and it has to give you a very good movement pattern for whatever it is you're doing. So some of these will get updated and changed as other coaches come in and show us different experiences. And you guys can put the pressure on Coach Smith right now because I've been asking her to show me in detail a video of that exo mode that she does for her gymnasts. I don't know if we can get into that one in exactly 8 seconds. I think if everything's banded together, it might take a little 10 seconds. Okay. So 8 plus 2 is 10. So we could kind of find a loophole there and see if we
We
work
we
that in there.
might we might can get it. So I do have athletes that when they get the hang of it, it takes a little bit to get the hang of it, but when they get the hang of it, usually by the second or third time they've put themselves in, I think we can time it. I think I have some athletes that are athletes that can get in 8 seconds, and when they've already done it and got used to it. So it's a
And
little learning curve, but usually 2 or 3 times. I had an athlete I
it's
taught them once, and then they turned around and taught all their teammates. And I was like, well, that's good. You got
well, and that's how it should go. And that's part of changing culture. And we're just being tongue in cheek. We like to stay on brand with 2A. But we do seriously, if something's taking you less than, half a minute to get into anything, and you're going to get so much quality and energy out of it, then, we can extend that if needed. But we want to see, I was calling it exo mode. I don't know if you have a different mode for it, but we put all of these different modes here so that people can jump into and see visuals of everything that's here. So if I jump into core mode, because we're talking about core activation, right? When I jump into the mode, I will see a brief 1 minute video on all of them where myself and Coach Wellington or any other coaches who make them, so expect to see Coach Smith here, you will see their video of them coaching how to get into the mode and what it's supposed to do, common mistakes or little hit list here. And then as we continue to advance the app, you'll see different exercises that you can perform in each mode. So if I click on this will just loop over and over. And on your phone, it's going to look a little bit better because it's going to just show it landscape like an actual, or yeah, not landscape, vertical portrait is how we call it. Yeah, it's just going to show it over and over again, but it's just going to keep looping and showing you the movement. And then there's keys here on how you do it. So for the core, when we're in core mode or core into mode, that was the name of the brand before it was 2.8, about 8 years ago, before someone knocked off my previous design. It was all attached to a belt, and we called it cord. Past tense, but everything stems from the core. And then we had like carabiners and metal and Velcro, and it was a mess. It was functional, but it was a mess. So, um, but being in this mode, it is attached. As you can see, I have the 3-star loops around my
I want to,
thighs.
before you go on, that one you just did where they're jumping, I absolutely love that. We've been talking about tendon loading and especially
Mm-hmm.
Achilles tendon issues. I like that one for some Achilles tendon loading for those of you that were here last week. So
Jumps
just
into
FYI.
Achilles.
Yeah, there, oh, you've
Open.
got some other ones for Achilles, but I like that just jumping. You're using core, which is great, but also I loved the Achilles work.
This is a bad filming angle here, but here we're doing a knees over toes
Yeah,
movement.
like a downward dog
And
almost. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but we're trying to, I need to collapse all of my lower, if I try to go for full extension, I need to collapse the ankle, the knee, and the hips. I literally don't have cartilage between my knee. And because I don't have that cartilage, it's a whole ghost story. I'm not going to get into it, but there's a ball of fragmented cartilage and bone in my quad that has attached itself literally to the bone there. So I cannot bend my knee to a certain depth. But the goal here, if I had like real human knees, would be to collapse all those joints as close as possible together and then explode and get full extension through there.
This is actually great for in the sport of gymnastics, this idea of trying to find a quick tuck, right? So part of
Mm-hmm.
one of the issues that coaches have is when they go to set and go into a back tuck, athletes will set and they'll tuck like this instead of
Mm-hmm.
curling in. And so that little movement where they have to collapse in, that's actually a curl in that they need for that tuck. Oh, she said that was great. Yeah, thanks so much, Patricia. She loves it. Yeah, thanks, Patricia.
And that is
There's a lot of different options.
yeah, this is one of my favorite ones too. I was just doing this on top of a mountain in Greece last week. It was epic. But these the optionality is really limitless, and you can see quickly every time I showed you a movement, you were quickly like, oh, that translates to this. And that's the beauty of having movement literacy, because you
Yeah.
can see how it translates from sport to sport, from movement pattern to movement pattern, and it becomes universal. It's not just about, like, we teach you to read and write. That doesn't mean you can't read fiction or nonfiction, or everything has to be science based or religious based. Like, reading and writing is the skill, so you can enjoy literacy. We need to teach movement literacy so we can enjoy movement the right way.
Yeah.
So
I
I
love
am
it.
constantly updating these, like I said, trying to find the best modes that will stay on here. And then we will continually put more and more examples on here of different things you can do within each mode. We get down here, these are some of the more complex modes. When you talked about here being able to um, hold up my body weight, this is me hanging literally over a cliff, but we're using the super band and the movement band together as a harness. And I'm legit just hanging. I can go big here, legit hanging over a rock cliff, but just allowing it to support my entire body weight there. Right. But this, when we talk about full body extension and getting that full kinetic chain to activate, we are eliminating gravity again. So this is huge for us in sprinting and getting in those mechanics, because it's like we're going to take gravity away in a very safe manner that allows you to feel secure, because we're going to allow you to push your hips where they don't normally go. If I go quickly back to what I was saying before about the core and being in the fetal position, I understand that as safety from birth. That's a neurological programming that stays in our DNA.
Hmm.
So whenever fear is induced, bang, you hear a loud sound. There's a car crash, something's happening. When you react physically, what you actually do is you bring things back to your core. You go, oh, oh, what's happening? So when I am able to sink things down into my core to protect my vital organs, there's no way I'm going to get to full extension where I'm vulnerable and it's dangerous. So putting people in positions where they can feel secure about actually being in a full extension, about pushing their hips fully through, extending their arms all the way out, pushing their toes through the ground. You want to manipulate gravity in different ways to take it out of the equation and still make them feel safe and secure in what they're able to do. But yeah, this is the 2-8 app. I got one more thing to show you here really quick. I know we're basically out of time. So we have all those modes and those exercises, those are all on there. They're free for everyone. And then we have 8 Minute Athlete. All of these things are free. They're just 8 minute follow along workouts where we jump in a bunch of different modes and we just get the moving. Free follow along workouts. These are just generic workouts. But then we have our premium workouts. These are paid workouts, but you can always go in and try a couple of the days for free. But Coach Wellington, this might be locked here. I haven't logged in. We created his AI, and I wanted to show you that really quickly. It won't even let me in. I locked myself out of the whole thing. I just gotta log in. Oh, I'm looking for the login button. It's staring me right in the face. And as I log in, I should have access to my program that I designed. Yeah, so now we got it unlocked. And I go into Hurdle Hero, and this is his AI, where you literally are. What we've done is we've taken, and you can take, because all of these are on YouTube and stuff, right? So I can take all of your knowledge base. This is most of Coach Welly's knowledge base, some of it, but there's going to be more here. I can take any PDF, any written document that you've ever done. You can go in and you can create your written document, and I can jump in here and just start asking questions. So this was a preloaded question. I was in here. It just said, what are the foundational components, principles for developing proficient hurdles across all skill levels? Now what it's doing is it's responding, but it's also telling you which sources it's using as it's responding, why it's coming up with those answers. And all of these are directly from the mouth of Coach Webb, right? But the real fun part about this is over here in the studio, because in the studio, you can create. This is probably already, I don't know if you can hear the volume. Can you hear that? Okay. So what we did is we created a podcast. I'm gonna delete this. So you can it works better on the mobile version. But what it is they call it an audio overview, and this is insane. So I'm in the interactive mode right now. This created a 5-minute podcast about all of his information. But I can play this, and while they're having a podcast, it's two people talking back and forth. I can join in and I can ask a question. And the podcast, just like you and I are talking right now, someone can jump into this and the AI will say, "Oh, that's a great question. Let me tell you," and it'll keep you in there organically. It's an amazing experience. You can also create little PowerPoint videos from this. You can create podcasts that you can download and just listen to on the go, and it's all just your information.
Is it Coach Welly's voice?
It's not his voice. They're
Okay.
generic AI. We're going to
Right.
get there eventually, but these are created generic voices created from Google, and you can kind of set the tone and the tempo of how you want them to do it. So I can generate as many of these as I want. I can tell them, hey, focus on this topic. Hey, get straight to the point. Hey, be critical and tell me why everything they're saying is wrong, right? And really challenge what someone is doing. And that's what I love to do with this stuff is to really challenge our thought processes so we don't get stuck in our echo chamber. But I would really be interested to sit with you and to see how we put together movement literacy AI, how we put together some things just for gymnastics,
Yeah.
because you can make these are you can make these in so many different ways, and it's way simpler than people think to be able to make it, and then to be able to host it in certain places. So if you guys
Oh,
are interested in hurdling, you can get the Hurdle Hero AI from our mobile app.
that's awesome. And that's a paid program, right? The Hurdle AI.
Yeah, we can. If anybody's wanting to try it or interested in it, you just send me a note and they can give you access to it. But it's inside of his paid program, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it. I love
And
it.
then just
Super cool.
basic stuff, basic information on here, ways to connect with us, different opportunities. We need to put more movements here. We go through
Movement of the
movement of the
day.
day. Yeah. So we'll continue to start putting more and more stuff on here as we get more coaches to collaborate with the program. The app can always be found whenever you purchase a band. That name tag in the center has the QR code in there as well. Make sure you use Brandy's QR code
Oh yeah, let me drop that
for
in here.
your promo code.
Yeah, so
If
the
you
promo code is in the chat. Let me drop it in. That gives you guys, what is the percentage off? 15%, 10%? I don't remember.
10% off,
Yeah.
except on the 28th, it goes up 2% on the 28th.
No way. Every month?
Yeah, you have not been looking at my emails, have
It's been a busy
you?
year. It's been a really busy year, man. Uh,
Email is the worst way to communicate. But yes, on the to be on brand on the 28th of every month,
you get an extra
we
2% off.
yes, and you get an extra commission. So your
Oh,
commission goes up on
fancy.
that day as well. Yeah.
You know I'm not doing it for commission when I have no idea what any of that stuff. I just love these bands so much because we use them so much. They're just brilliant. It's brilliant what we can do with them, and the ideas are endless. Um, it's just amazing. I'm so excited, and I love the app. I need to spend more time on that app. Um, but yeah, so go to the 28.shop/perfect, the number 10 PT, and you'll get your discount code. And these guys are pretty amazing because there's some bundle packages for coaches and gyms, and the discount code will actually go for that as well. Will the 2 extra% off on the 28th also go for that on those bundles or no?
Yes, we do
Oh my
not we do
gosh.
not substitute on those days. So we do
The
something on
bundle,
the
the
20th.
bundle is already the bundle is already discounted. And then
Yes.
you get because you're buying them in bulk. And then you guys, as a gym owner, you can also get an extra 12% off on the 28th of the month if you use that code I just dropped in, or you can get an extra 10% off of the already discounted bundle, which is a great way to pick out a bunch of these for your gym.
Yes. And if we don't have the bundle for you or your particular needs, remember the point of this is that you're putting it in the hands of your athletes.
Yeah.
So again, you want them to buy it from you or something like that. So if you ever have something that you don't see and you're coming from Brandy's community, you make sure you tell us, but reach out to us personally and we'll create an offer for you, a personalized bundle for you. There's no issue with that whatsoever.
Yeah,
We
because we
we
have
enjoy doing that.
because we also have these smaller bands. Remember we talked about these? These are actually really good for the little guys. They're good for
We're
the
almost out.
they're good for the little guys and they're great for leaps. So traditional gymnastics gyms will do what they used to call shackles, or you can call them loops. Um,
Mhm,
and they put them around the ankles and have them do leaps, right? And this is
mhm.
a great band for that. Um, but again, what we like though is I like being able to tie it around the ankle with that double loop. Will you stop screen share for a second?
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot. I'm just staring at
I'm
the app.
sorry. I know I'm enjoying. But that way you can, you can hook them to their feet and have them here. So that what is this band called? I forgot.
We called that the Boost Band. I don't know how many we actually have in stock right now. There's a
Uh-oh.
very limited amount. But in light of that, you see it's a different color than our normal green and red. But we do custom bands for gyms all the time where we put their colors, their logo on here. So when they do give it to their athletes are literally walking around with their brand all day long. We care more about boosting your brand than our own. We just want people to
Nice.
move better. If it's on your brand, like we can do that. So much in line with the boost band, if there's a certain number of bands out there that we need to if you have enough people who want the boost band, then we can reproduce it for special occasions if we don't have any more.
Oh, okay. Oh, was that a limited time?
Mhm. I think Coach Welly still has a few in his inventory. I'm not sure how many. I'd have to ask.
I may order
I
some
know
more
it's.
myself then. I'll order some
Yeah.
more. I need to
Let
order.
me know. Let me know. We'll take care of it. That's not an
Okay.
issue.
Um, Really quickly before we go, I want to show you guys what Coach Stokes calls the XO band. My athletes just call it the advanced wrap because I have two different wraps I use. I almost always, not almost always, when we do other stuff, we use single bands. But when I'm doing gymnastics like stuff, I use multiple bands. So I put two tied together to do my bridging work. So I tie them here, they put it behind, they cross it over, less than 8 seconds. Um, and they can put it into their hand. And I typically will just have them bridge like that. If they're being weird and have a hard time, you can lock it in. Um, and then if they're little guys, they'll have to drop back to usually the second 2-star band.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll show you guys kind of how I use the bridge. And then I use four green movement bands to create a second like one band out of the two. And then I cross the whole body because one of the biggest things in gymnastics skill specific is rib flaring, closed shoulders, closed hips, and then trouble finding the ends of our movement. So our toe point is bad and our one leg is bent. We have trouble pushing all the way through the shoulders on a cast handstand or a block on the vault or a back handspring when they hit the ground. They're just buckle instead of push. And so these bands, the way I wrap them, will give resistance and they learn to push. They learn to push through gymnastics fully through their whole body because it helps with that. 1 second. There it is. Okay. Um, this is a whole presentation I have, but I'm not going to do the whole presentation. I'm just going to show you guys. Uh, I'll do a quick, let's see. Dun, dun, dun.
No,
So
that's just awesome to see right there.
what's
Full
awesome?
full body.
The full body
Eh,
wrap. I know the full
I
body.
call it exo mode. It's like an exoskeleton.
Yeah, these guys, it is like an exoskeleton, but it is like exo mode. I'm cool with calling it exo mode. Yeah, my kids just call this the basic wrap with the two bands and then the advanced wrap. That's what the kids started calling it. But
Mm.
see, they didn't have all these other 28 methods of stuff. So we can make it whatever. So
And go.
I'm gonna
Stick it in, kind of exaggerate so you can see.
yeah, so this is how we tie the band in. Not a big deal. And then make a little bow tie out of it. And then
Foot, and then do
put
the
on our foot
over.
and then flip it over.
Mhm. Mhm.
And Stokes, I thought I sent you these videos in a
Yeah.
drive.
We're just gonna show, go ahead and give a pull.
But I'm not
I
in, I don't know.
I'm not sure, but
Mhm.
I will quickly get to it.
You're gonna wrap it around the outside.
So we go, once we got on the
And
ankles, we wrap it
hands
around the
up
outside.
underneath the shin bone.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then give a nice pull, like be dramatic about the pull right there. Just like pull out. Yep, there you go. Good. And then cross behind. Yep, and show us that. There you go. And then get tall. And then right up your bottom. There you go. Good. Give a nice pull. Good. Turn underneath the sports bra. Cross. And then turn. Cross behind. Yep. And then over like a backpack. Exaggerate the backpack part. Shoop. Shoop. And then put it on your wrist.
It's important they give a big pull at the calves, otherwise they don't have enough for their arms and they end up with too much resistance at the arms.
And then press up tall. Good. And so we have the cross in the front. Go ahead and turn. And press everything tall, ears up, all over your ears.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's how we put the band on. The XO wrap, the advanced version. I think that was under 8 seconds, wasn't it? I don't know. It's pretty close. I don't know. That's with me talking. That's with me talking.
Could always speed up the camera a little bit, doesn't it?
No idea. So we do all kinds of basics to teach the athlete how to push into the band. And this one I love because it helps you with your stepping in and stepping out. It helps you with hurdling into your round-offs, hurdling anywhere. We do push-ups. We do butt-up stuff. We start working on shaping. So I'm just going to show you guys how we do. So we have whole progression, but I'm going to show you the big progression. I would never jump to this, but I just want to show you how we get to this.
The side is good. The side is good. Yeah, the side is good. So bring your hands in a little bit. There we go. Good. You already look like this. Is this already easier? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Pop up onto your toes. Good. Breathe. I'll give you one leg.
Amazing.
Breathe. Hold.
You heard the person, one of my students was videoing, he was like, amazing.
Breathe. Press tall.
Like it's already, his shape is already getting better.
Come up into the handstand. Press tall. Other one.
So now he wants to go down into his shoulders and close, but then he has to push tall
Breathe.
and press up.
That, yes. Breathe.
There, he's starting to try to figure it out. And so when they figure it out, it looks more like this. But each time that they use the band, the more their brain figures out, the better. By the time they've done 3 to 5 of these, their shape is just incredibly better.
Open your back.
And so he's on some balls because I'm doing some stuff for his wrist as well.
That's your ribs.
He's on tennis balls.
That's better.
But you don't have to do that with everyone. You can do floor bars, balance beams, all kinds of things.
Straight and tall.
And then what's happening is getting all this feedback so we can actually find where straight is. So no longer do we have these feet flying out way back here and they're too archy or we're piked. They can feel, and one of the greatest teachers in the world of pedagogy of teaching and coaching is actually experience. So overriding any cueing that I can give, the research shows the more you give an athlete experience, which is what the bands gives them an experience. So they find that nice straight body position. We do push-ups, all kinds of stuff from there. And then we can take it and go through, going into an active handstand. So she just goes straight into a handstand and she takes the T in and T out exercise. T's in, press tall.
There it is.
Find the handstand, T out. So when you have trouble with that control.
When you do a handstand right is you can press into the band.
Yeah, so she's pressing in the band. So when you're lacking control on those landings and stuff, it helps them figure that out. You can go into cartwheels. We did all different direction cartwheels, bridging. So, this is bridging with the full wrap. There we go. Oh, that's not what why did we not have the 2/8 on there? We used the TheraBand for some reason. That must have been before the 2/8 bands. I started
back in the day.
Yeah, it was back in the day before I had the TheraBand. I need to get an updated picture in this presentation. You can do it with the XO wrap, but I prefer, and it's easier, especially if you want to work with the younger guys, to just do that single wrap that we did. So it's interesting. I don't have that, but this was a kid that had a spondy and she was afraid to bend backwards. And so it's way better, easier done with the 2/8 band.
On the next in-breath, you're gonna imagine a string right here at your breastbone, and it's gonna pull you up. You're gonna push from the hands, not so much from the feet.
But this instantly changes bridges. I've had coaches implement this in their whole gym.
Come together, your rib cage and pelvis. Don't keep allowing it to stay long, and then you're gonna come down.
The most basic skill in gymnastics done poorly that causes a lot of injury and problem.
Breathe out. Next one, breathe in and let the string from your breastbone pick you up. Go ahead, breathe in, press, and only go as far as you come.
She's a little afraid. This is her very first time.
And then come down.
So that's her very first time post spondylolisthesis to try it. And she was like, I don't know about this.
Not that bad. What does not that bad mean? That didn't hurt. Yeah.
So it's the first time that this kid's done a bridge without back pain.
You see how confused you are?
Yeah. So first time she's done a bridge without back pain in more than a year, because she had had back pain for a long time, thinking it was normal. And so as she progressed, I think I had videos progression,
Push-ups.
but we're pushing up. So this is the EXO version of it. But I always have them do push-ups because you have to connect this whole posterior chain. And then now she has, with the EXO version, she has to press.
Arms up.
So when they close their shoulders, which is their habit, they don't completely get open. Now we tried it with the more higher resistance one because she's super strong. And it actually, for her, worked. But she's very tall and stronger. The younger kids and everyone else, I just usually do the movement band.
But this is where tension comes into place in a different way too, that it's not necessarily about providing more resistance, but providing the appropriate amount of tension for the athlete where they are. And it becomes more assisted in that moment than it is about resistance.
Right. So part of the reason why there's a cross behind is it assists the opening of the shoulders. And the same thing with the cross behind, it assists the opening of the hips. And then the cross in the front is resisting the flaring of the ribs. And then because of where the crosses are, when they're pushing in both directions, they're really having to use their whole shoulder blade complex, the core, everything's really connecting in this whole entire kinetic chain, which is what I absolutely love to do. So then we take that stuff and we can get into all kinds of fun things, front walkovers, back walkovers. This is a collegiate athlete who did a back walkover with the band for the first time without pain since she can remember. Because back pain with back walkovers in their world of gymnastics is believed to be normal, and it is not. It's a bad movement problem, and that usually leads to other issues. So let's see. Let me get to I want to go further because we don't have a lot of time. I know everybody needs to go. So we changed your Chenko. We did back walkovers, back handsprings on the floor line. She does single back handsprings on the beam. This was during COVID. This was before I found you guys. I was using these TheraBands. They whack people around. Then we did flick lays on the floor line with the bands.
Right. So flick lay with the double crossed bands.
And I still do them, but this was just one of the fun early on ones. And she was surprised because she hadn't done a flick lay without pain in a long time. She was like, what was that? Wasn't it? What we saw.
The first attempt. What did you feel?
Do what?
What did you feel?
I still didn't really feel anything. Like the only thing I just felt was that I didn't step in. Besides that, nothing hurt me.
You didn't step in fast.
So did you notice I didn't coach her? So it was her first time to do it. And because she didn't push hard enough and pushed all the way through, her flick lay was a little short. And she instantly knew from the feedback from the band, I didn't step in fast enough. And I didn't push through the band hard enough. So what I love about it is that there's automatic corrections happening.
Yeah.
So then she makes the correction.
Logan, step in.
So she tells me, so I ask them, what did you feel?
Yeah,
I'm not coaching them.
I don't want you to have any pain. That's good.
Yeah, at first she was concerned about pain also, but she hasn't had any.
Yeah, right there's good. You don't have to go that far. Scoot back. Yeah, there's good.
So watch what she does after she figured out and coached herself because of the band. Totally different in 2 sets. I think I might have done more.
Right.
What did you feel?
But that's what the right feedback does for you, right?
What else?
That that's when I actually stood up for it.
Yeah.
She actually stood up, looking at her. She got her chest up, her arms.
Kept pulling me, even though on the last one I didn't stand up though. I still felt like it wanted to make my arms get up.
Yeah.
So the band's giving her the get up, right?
Kind of.
You feel like you didn't die because the band helped you get your arms up the first time?
Yeah, because if I didn't get I probably would have died.
No, you wouldn't have died, but.
So,
Try again.
Okay, I think, I was gonna say, I think we did the
press.
third one, because the third one's always the third and fifth. Between 3 and 5, this was during COVID, by the way.
Yeah.
So we weren't in the gym, we were in a workout facility all alone. and nailed it
Yeah.
by the third time. And so what's the thing that's so great is that the band feedback, once you teach them basics, now clearly we built up a bunch of progressions to this, but once you teach them basics, they start to know what they should have. And then they can feel the band. So like if they sit crooked, the band falls off their bottom. If they drop their shoulder, the band falls off their shoulder. If they kick their head out, they feel the band in their head. If they're not pushing all the way through, they can feel that they're sluggish because it's the giving that proprioceptive feedback. That's why I love, love, love the bands. Front handspring bounders. We do front lays with them. I love doing front lays on the tumble track with them. This is a kid who came back from a spondy. And this was her, oh, she did front lays with the band. Hold on, let me find her double. Oh, okay, it's on a different one. Okay, so this is your Chanko. So we'll do through your Chanko and then we'll do the double. But I do giant swings, kips. Like if you can't get a kid to get their opening in their kip, if you have something resisting them, they have something to push into. It feels safe to open up. Um, this was an athlete who wanted to make lineup in college. Same athlete with the flick leg. And that is her vault. And boy, I can't. Okay, I think I have to do this. We'll see if I don't lose it. Hopefully I don't lose it. I've been having weird stuff happen. Okay, good. Because then I can pause it. There we go. So when she comes into her vault, she wasn't making vault lineup, not even close. Wanted to make vault lineup this junior year. And there's her entry. Shoulders never open. Thoracic spine never opens, right? And shoulders never fully open. This was before the bands, right? So then we did some drills on the floor. Bring her back. And she's got the bands on. Now this was a different version of but I like the exo wrap better. The exo wrap works better. But this was just a good example of just having resistance. So she's pushing, 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 pushing. And then when she gets to here, look at the shoulder angle. She's opening. She's now, oops. Now she's opening already early, which she's supposed to be doing. And then there we are. Now we're into this opening position. And then when she blocks, she's already more at the angle of entry that we need for the optimal angle of exit. So now she just can block right up from that. So then we took it to the vault and here she goes. And so she does have the bands on, by the way. And here she goes, opening, opening. Look at that opening, much more open. Gets off the table faster, flips over faster to reach up to the top of the mats. And she made vault lineup that year and the next year. So there's a lot of, whoops, keep going. So we've got layouts, radical handspring layouts. And I wanted to show this. So this was an athlete.
Okay.
This was her double back.
Okay, we're good.
Before, sorry, teammates are always yelling. So I want to show you her double back and see her set. You guys have athletes that do this on just single backs as well, but and any coach will say, uh-oh, where's her set? Her shoulders are closed. That's not gonna work out, right? Already knowing that's not gonna work out. And here comes the flip. And because she didn't get open, she's flipping way far back and we're going to land short. Everybody knows it. And she's got her ankles taped because she's been landing short for a while. So that was repetitively a habit for her. So here we have the bands, go back. The exo wrap that you talk about is much better than the wrap I was doing before. This is just a single cross. The exo wrap's way better, but just showing that you resist the kinetic chain. Arms are getting open. She's getting more open. And then when she's set, I understand it's a different angle, but she's got completely open. She loved tumbling with these. She's all the way up for the set. So then she flips much higher. And then her goal, so then she lands, but her goal was not to actually land that one because there's her very first time back after having a back fracture. But It was just to get air awareness and flip. So she was actually not shooting to stick that. So anyways, just to show a couple different ways we use it, and we do cast handstands with this thing because now they have something to push into. We do tap swings because now they have something to push into on the tap swings. We do giants, same thing. Now we have something to push into. And yeah, that's it. So there's all kinds of things that the form is endless as far as what you can do in the gym with your skills. And what I love about it, so when I go into a gym and I get to coach, 70% of my training would be in the bands. 70%. I would just be doing all my basics, dynamic warm up, on every event in the bands, and then take them off for the higher level stuff. Now, for me, we know, like Coach Stokes said, like if you're in fear or something happens, like you're gonna close up and ball up. That's our natural reaction. So people might say, oh my God, that's like crazy scary. They've got bands on and they're doing back handsprings. You would never throw a band on an athlete to do a back handspring, having never done a handstand or even a push-up position or a back walkover or a bridge. Like they need to get used to the amount of push they have to have, right, in order to feel their body and change their movement. Because the movement pattern in the flick flay and the flick flick is actually already there on their bridge. So you have to go back to basics just like you would anything else. Start with basics. And I always stop when the athlete says, I don't know if I want to go do that thing. Okay, great. Like these athletes who said, I want to do a double, they were loving the round up back handspring and the layout. They said, can I do a double in it? I said, sure. You know, if you want to land on the resi or you want to land whatever, like that's more. So and the thing is you can still get results by just doing round up back handspring back tucks and getting them to learn how to set and then taking them into the double without the bands. So if I have an athlete who's like loving it and doing well and they're open to trying the next level skill, as long as I think it's safe, right? Like I don't have any reason to think that you should do Dokachevs in them, right? But I think you can do timers for sure, and you can do all the Forrester band work and the bouncing drills on the trampoline for Tkachev. You can do all that in the band and get better movement that you can carry over to your actual skill. So I just addressed that because I hear it over and over and over, like, oh my God, that's dangerous or something. I was like, no, the band is really, especially the XO wrap, it's on you. It is not going anywhere. And as long as you teach them the basics and build up, they can do that. It's endless. It's up to the athlete's comfort level. I never have an athlete do a flick lay on the high beam with them. They don't need to. They just do the flick lay on the floor line, just like they do any other training. And then when they go on the high beam, the flick lay is naturally better and they hit it. One thing, Coach Stokes, you were talking about was this idea of using it over and over. If you think about coach cueing, so there's this whole research, I actually just presented on it. There's internal cues, external cues. There's also this factor about autonomy. It's a bunch of coaching stuff that we talk about. And there's a bunch of research to show that the farther away the external cue, the more consistent and better the performance outcome will be. Which means instead of me cueing, hey, tighten in the lowest level of cueing is internal cueing near, which is like tighten your butt, squeeze your abs, blah, blah, blah. You'll get the least amount of consistent or even actual results you want with that type of cueing. And we also know that if you put autonomy into it, right, then we get huge results. So what I love about the bands is it becomes an external cue because my coaching becomes push into the band or don't let the band win. And then the band gives them feedback, just like I wanted to show that athlete doing her first one forever. She told me, I said, well, what did you feel? And then now all of a sudden she's super invested in her own movement. She's invested in her own performance. And now her mind has been able to not only feel, which is one part of the brain, then express it, which is another part of the brain, then make the correction, which is another part of the brain, which is why if you do this over and over, you're consistently performing. So in short, the band will always be the band and it'll always be consistently resisting. Whereas my coaching technique saying, tighten that, squeeze that. Wait, that's not working. Push to the ceiling. Imagine there's a light coming out of your toes, and which is also an external one. Send the light, cut the ceiling. Like their draw a circle, which actually is a good cue, right? Or I've put stickers on people and say, send the stickers to the ceiling. And that's actually, there's a bunch of research to show that that works. And it works every time, by the way. But it's still not as consistent as the amount of resistance and ingraining an experience in the athlete, which is
I
why I
have
have
to
so
say,
much consistency.
I have to say, tension equals attention is something I am absolutely going to abuse. I love the way that was worded.
Yeah.
We, for the cue, I always say this is the coach's echo.
Yeah.
And when you actually give them the cues with the physical external reminder, when you are not there and they're working autonomously, they can hear the echo of what you said before, or they can feel the echo of it. And as you talk to as well about the safety aspect of it, and we say keep the athlete in the element. I'm not doing gymnastics, but I play basketball, play American football. People are trying to kill me, and I would manipulate ways. That's how I got back from devastating knee surgery, was manipulating a way to put the band on so it's always on and it's always giving me the cue where I'm not having to, where I'm not being negligent in the fact of I don't think about blinking. So when I'm doing normal movements, I might not think about it, but when the cue was always there, I brought attention where I
Attack.
felt the tension, and it was what we call positive resistance. So it can be there indefinitely because it's not tearing muscle fibers, it's not stressing joints,
Mhm.
it's not going to cause detriment, which some resistance can when we
Oh yeah. Yeah.
overtrain and we overwork with certain things.
Yeah,
But
that's why I love the movement bands. Speaking of that, like I have an athlete that just came back from an ACL surgery, right? And well, not just like she's past that point, right? But the last piece, so how do I say this? I come in and out of people's, journeys depending on where they
mhm.
are. So she had some in-person PT and some other stuff. And then she said, they said I'm ready to tumble. And she said, so I started doing round off back handsprings. And I said, can you send me a video? And her knee is rolling in. And when I slowed the video and took screenshots, she was mortified. She said, I don't think I should do that. And I said, I agree. Like, so she could control her knee with box jumps and all the stuff they'd done in PT, which is traditional PT. But then
Mhm.
when you transferred her over to her mechanics landing from higher level surfaces, like off the bar or tumbling, she was dropping her knee in. So we threw the bands on. Guess what happened? Not dropping the knee in. So now she tumbles all
Ta-da.
ups and stuff. Yeah. So, we did a few other like jumping stuff and stuff with the bands, but like in short, the band gave her, just like you said, enough feedback to help her understand this is where my knee should be. There should be a certain amount of resistance. And I tell you, that is the key to not having re-injury and the key to having high performance because she's got to be able to transfer that load up instead of into her knee. And so now she's getting ready for acro and tumbling in college, and she still does warm-ups. The key is getting some warm-ups. She warms up with her bands. Now she can't do the bands like during competition or whatever, but because she's doing so much consistency with the bands, she's doing great.
That's what we call that the ghost effect as well.
Yeah.
That's the thing I love the most is when they put it on, they get the attention to the tension, but when you remove it, you still have the ghost of the band, kind of that remnant of it, and then your muscle memory kicks in and pushes you right to where you need to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of where you need to
We all
go,
gotta
it is
go.
below zero on this balcony, so my toes and fingers are completely frozen, and my wife's calling me inside.
It's
So
fine. It's fine.
I've had a blast. I appreciate you so much. We need to talk about your AI that we are
Yeah.
going to build and make sure you guys go use that promo code.
All right, I'll send you a message because we should make an appointment at some point. You guys check out the promo code the number 8.shop/perfect, the number 10 PT, and you can get your discount code as well as go to the bottom of that homepage. You can get the free app because the app is free for everyone, right?
Yes.
And so you can see all these really cool exercises that Coach Stokes and all kinds of other coaches have made on how to use the bands. And Stokes, thank you so much for coming. It was awesome as always. We really appreciate it. And you guys, everybody have a good rest of the week. Next week, I told you guys, it's a packed rest of this year. So one second, let me get up the schedule.
I gotta run, but
Yeah, you're
I'll
out.
catch you.
Thanks, Coach
Okay,
Stokes. We
take
appreciate
care.
you.
You
Um,
too.
bye. So next week, let me get it scrolled up. Bear with me a second, guys. We exciting. Next week we have Doc Allison Arnold. For those of you that don't know her, she's a clinical psychologist, counselor, and a mental toughness coach for all kinds of athletes, especially gymnasts, and has been doing it for a long time. So she's going to come in, and she hasn't given me an exact topic yet. So it'll, if you guys have any requests, shoot me a message via Instagram or text me if you have my number. Shoot me a message if you have any requests for Doc Allie to cover, because she can cover everything from fear to competition readiness to habit to hit to all kinds of things. So she's got some amazing stuff. So next week, Doc Allison Arnold. I'll see you guys same time, same place. And thanks. This is our new link. So we're going to keep staying on this link. All right, you guys have a great week.